All right, Buff Nation, what's going on? Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. And today we're going to get into some of the winners, the losers, the guys who graded out really well. I want to know in the comments from you guys who were players that really played really well in your mind. Who are some players that got to step up against Arizona? Because this is going to be an awesome game Saturday afternoon, and we're going to have to step it up. I think that this very well could be the hardest game left on the schedule, that being KSU. And I think we're going to be a better team from it. But we're going to review the grades, kind of check out statistically who did really well, who needs to improve, all of that in today's video. So smash a like, subscribe to David Talks Buffs, and of course, join the chat. And lastly, guys, thank you so much for all of you who have subscribed or followed on my Facebook profile here for David Talks Buffs. I'm only 5 people away from that 100, and then I can live stream over there. So if you got a free moment, check it out in the comments or in the description of my video. Only takes a minute, and it goes a long way for the channel. So first off, I'll say hello to a couple of regular viewers. Jalen, what's going on? Hope you're doing well. Love that profile pic, by the way. That's a good shot of Coach Prime. And Shirley, always in here. Hope you're having a wonderful evening. Nah, man. It's just been one of those days, which is why I'm on here. Usually I'm on here earlier in the day on Mondays, but it's just been one of those days. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and get started here. I think I led with the offensive line in my title, so I guess we can start there. We'll go to the pass blocking grades. Then we can head over to the defense as well. And then let me make sure. Yeah, I think you guys can see this okay. Yeah. So we're going to take a look at the pass blocking, and ultimately I thought that we had a really not a really amazing day pass blocking, but I thought we did pretty well. One of our better games. And if we're looking at probably the 2 best defensive lines that we've had or that we faced so far in the season was Nebraska and Kansas State. I would probably say is Kansas State. Maybe Baylor was up there too, but I would say coming into the preseason and all of that, their start of the season, I would say Kansas State would be right up there too as one of the tougher through the first 6 games. And I thought that we performed pretty well as a line, and I think that the grades reflect that. Ultimately, the offensive line was only credited with 2 or responsible for 2 of the 6 sacks that Shedeur ended up taking against Kansas State. And I thought that was pretty fair. I thought that this was a game for Shedeur in which his pocket presence was not good, and it ended up leading to other sacks and for us taking, going backwards on the field. And it was nice to see here that I thought overall, like, we had good performances from Jordan Seaton. Of course, he gave up a holding penalty right there, but he was the highest graded guy. I think he's been the highest graded guy on our offensive line all year. Nice to see Dallin Hayden step up in pass protection. Hank Solinskis, Kareem Harden, Tyler Brown, all of these guys in the 70s at the 72 mark. And that is good. That is good play. Like, you are getting good play according to these grades from the offensive line. And then Philip Houston was a little bit behind that in 66.8. But again, the biggest takeaway that I have here, guys, is that if we were coming in this game and saying the offensive line would be responsible for 2 sacks, 1 hit, 6 hurries, 9 pressures, most games I feel like I would take that. Okay. Savell Smalls wasn't nearly as good in pass pro as I believe he was rated out against UCF. And that's something that we got to continue to improve moving forward. We had a couple penalties on the line. That Kareem Harden false start on that last drive was killer. And hopefully we can see this line. I love that the line got a second game together to play together. I would love to see that same line play against Arizona this weekend. Continue to build that continuity, learn to communicate with each other, and see where we go from there. But I think 3 straight games of playing together, everybody, I think that can really benefit the offensive line and offense. And we'll just pray for no injuries on the offensive line for sure. True pass sets, guys. This is a takeaway from, you can see everyone's grades kind of drop a little bit in true pass sets. Even Jordan Seaton's just a tad. But the biggest takeaway that I have from this is that we were less effective in those true pass set situations. And that's what's very important about not taking sacks that don't need to be taken, right? Still committing to running the ball. We really saw in the second half of that game just completely getting out of, I think, the balance on offense that we've had over the last few games. When you're imbalanced, we saw, especially in that second half, KSU, they were just able to kind of pin their ears back and get pressure with 3, with 4, and sometimes with 5. We'll see how much they blitz, but when you don't have any commitment to balance, even when the game is in reach, I thought throughout most of the game, this is what happens when you're put in second and long, first and long, third and long. This is what happens. This is what happens. And that's why, even if we're not running the ball super effectively, that's why it's important to get somebody in there early on if Dallin Hayden's not making the most of the offensive line. Let's see what Isaiah can do. Let's see what Micah can do. These guys have been the most proven runners for us so far this year. I think that that's probably when the coaching staff is reflecting yesterday about how they called the game, the personnel. I'm sure that was one thing that was discussed, that I think that that was a missed opportunity, seeing what Dallin Hayden and Isaiah Augustive could have done in that first half. And let's go and see what the run blocking looked like. Again, not great, but again, in terms of the grades, like, not horrible either. Like, this is average stuff. Hank Zielinskis, Philip Houston, and Kareem Harden, along with Tyler Brown. It's nice to at least see that 4 out of our 5 offensive linemen are the highest graded guys in the run blocking. But again, when you're looking at this, guys, 10 run blocks total. That is unacceptable. That's totally unacceptable. This was going back into bad habits from last year when we don't have the same offensive line from last year. I will be consistent with that. I have said throughout this season that this offensive line is improved. We have seen that. And for us to get away from staying committed to the run game, even when things don't always look pretty, it really did bite us in the ass in the second half. That's how I felt about it. You can see Jordan Seaton here with a 59.4, but we didn't really give our team much of a chance to run the ball. We didn't really give each other much of a chance to have balance throughout this game. And again, throughout our 3-game winning streak, our running backs have had over 20 designed runs, or 20 at the least. So the fact that we cut this in half and had 10 against Kansas State, again, it was something that I'm sure we're going to look to correct this week against Arizona. That is not a sustainable ratio for winning. And we all know that when we've had a little bit of run, 3-game winning streak. Let's take a look at the defense, and I'll get to some of your comments afterwards. Some of our highest graded players in this last game: Colton Hood, of course, he had the really big interception. He had a couple tackles as well, and one stop, interception somewhere. Yeah. And he did a great job. He had, let's see, he had 15 coverage snaps and didn't allow 1 reception. Great job, Colton Hood. Not only was he great on that interception, but 14 other coverage snaps, he was doing a very good job. So credit to him. Coming in, filling in for Travis Hunter. Great to see. We'll see if we can get Travis back this week. I sure hope to God we can. We we have a much better chance of winning games when he's in. But Colton Hood really stepped up, and it doesn't shock me to see him as the highest rated guy on here. He was great in coverage, and I thought he did well in tackling as well. Now, one kind of positive takeaway that I have from this is that a lot of our defensive line, our front guys, were some of the highest graded guys again from this game. So our main interior guys, Shane Cokes, Chidozie Nwankwo, 67 grades. You see BJ Green is right here as well, and he also had a nice game in the pass rush with 2 sacks. He was awesome, 2 total tackles. Now we're going to get to the missed tackles because that was a huge issue. But BJ Green, we didn't have a lot of stops in this game, but BJ Green was getting a few of them, and I want to give him credit to that. I thought DJ McKinney had a pretty good game, and Amari McNeil. Tafik Thomas is up here too, 63, 64, 66. But the biggest takeaway, guys, is that I had was when our guys up front, I thought were doing their jobs. What we saw was our linebackers did not nearly have as good as a game. Our safeties didn't when it came to the run support. What was like one of the huge themes from our game against UCF, big time rushing attack, was that all 11 guys were playing really well in run support. They were tackling, not a lot of broken and missed tackles, guys wrapping up in the open field. And we just didn't see that. We saw Levante Bentley, Nakai Hill Green, graded much lower than what we've seen them perform at the last handful of games. Arden Walker didn't have nearly as good of a game against KSU as he did against UCF. Cameron Silman Craig kind of had a tougher day in coverage. Preston Hodge had a really rough game. Samuel Okunloa didn't grade out very well, especially in the tackling. So let me see here, like the 6 missed tackles. I mean, that's tough. That's tough. 6 missed tackles from Nakai Hill Green. You had 1 from Bentley, you had 1 from Jalen Wester, 2 from Preston Hodge, 1 from Samuel Okunloa, again 2 from BJ Green, like I said, and Shedeur Sanders had 4. He wasn't nearly as good as he's been in the past. Definitely a rough game. I think that Carter Stoutmeyer still no missed tackles. I wouldn't mind still seeing more Carter in this game, as Shiloh's I think it's pretty clear he's still needing to work his way back. But we need bounce back games from all of these guys here as well. If we're going to go into Tucson and get this win, we need to take this game personally, as it was a homecoming. It's a homecoming game for Arizona. What the hell are you doing scheduling us as the homecoming game? We should take that personally, right? Let's take a look and see what Shedeur did. Of course, when you kind of look at the passing chart here, he was really good over the middle, 11 for 11, 7 of 9. That was great. Didn't complete a lot deep and outside, which is kind of uncharacteristic of him. There weren't a lot of attempts, so credit to KSU for really taking away they took away the deep part of the game, man. And that's been an area in which we've really been able to eat at. Shedeur really excels at. He only had 4 attempts past 20 yards this game. And whether it was pressure or whether it was good coverage, I think we really failed to adjust to what they're doing to take away the big play. And you saw, I mean, we continued to go for the big play, and it just didn't pay off, especially towards the end. It was just a little too much or too little too late. Let's get to some of the stats here. When kept clean, of course, Shedeur, 93%. But this was the biggest difference when you're comparing this game to UCF. Shedeur had 16 attempts opposed to 14 attempts against the blitz against UCF. Against UCF, Shedeur had a 94% completion percentage. And you saw, Shedeur, man, he still had 2 touchdowns, but still had, that 1 pick as well, but a much smaller completion percentage, around 68% or 69%. Still very good. But it's one of those things where when blitzed and under pressure, 50%, those things are, that could have made an impact on this game's outcome for sure. And you see Shedeur, I thought that he did pretty well off of play action. The problem is, guys, is that we ran 7 play action plays. You can't do that when you got a run game. And you see the yards per attempt significantly dropped off of no play action. That's something that you hope to see improve against and bounce back against Arizona. That was tough. But, for the most part, we've seen throughout the season like a fairly even distribution all the way around. Around 20 to 25% each for all 4 of these quadrants. And you can see things just KSU kept a lot of the throw short. Shedeur was 17 of 17 between the line of scrimmage and 9 yards. That's great. I think you got to credit KSU with their open field tackling because we weren't able to turn that into much compared to some of these other games that we've had where we've been able to throw it short. But they really took away the deep ball. That's probably the biggest thing that I take away from this. They did a really great job with that. So those are the game grades. I guess we could also see, for what it's worth, like how guys did rushing. Dallin Hayden had a slightly lower grade here than Isaiah Augustive, but again, it's just hard to grade Augustive on 3 attempts. Dallin Hayden, he only got 7 attempts. Granted, I didn't think with what he did with them was much of anything, but it was just kind of a damn shame. We got out of our game plan pretty quickly. What I appreciated against Baylor, even though we kind of struggled at certain points in that game early on, we still committed to the run, and that really paid dividends in the second half when we were coming back. And this was just a game where we didn't stay disciplined, I feel like, from a personnel front and a play calling front. So that's really what I got, guys, for taking a look at the grades and how people did statistically in this game. Again, you're really hoping that Travis Hunter can return this week. I think that was a dislocated shoulder. Hopefully Carter Stoutmeyer can get some more play time. Graded out well in coverage. Preston Hodge, Cameron Silman, Craig. These are guys that I'm expecting to see have a bounce back game, along with Nakai Hill-Green and Shedeur Sanders. So, a lot of our best players didn't play up to where we've seen them play at for the majority of the year. And I think it speaks towards the fight that this team really had. Even though we had injuries, we had people go down, some of our best players and leaders weren't playing at their best. The fact of the matter is that we had fought back to take the lead at the end of the game, and then we still had an opportunity to drive down the field and win a game against the number 18 team in the country right now. So while this is a frustrating loss, this isn't a loss, I feel like, in which we should hang our heads. I think it does speak to the improvement of this program over the last couple years, and this is still something that I expect our team to learn from and bounce back from. You saw how we performed after Nebraska when we went to CSU and then played Baylor and UCF. That's what I'm expecting this team to do coming out of this loss, because we've seen it before now. We've seen it. This team is much more resilient and together, and that's what I'm expecting. Performances like this from some of our better players is not common. This is something that we're going to see, I think, corrected moving forward. So thank you guys so much for your time. I'll get to some of your comments, see what you guys got to say, and then we're going to get out of here. I wish we had 4 Jordan Seatons for guard and tackle. Yeah, yeah. We'll get there, guys. We'll get there. That's part of this developing the offensive line pipeline. I think we're in a good position right now. Remember, Cardi Smith is visiting for not the Cincinnati game. Is it the Cincinnati game? I'm trying to remember. But he is visiting here later this month. That's going to be great. And even though some of these guys that are starting right now, they're not all Americans, like Jordan Seaton he'll probably be a freshman All American, and he'll probably be an All American moving forward. I think most of, if not all of the starting offensive line right now can return for next year. And so having that continuity, guys like Hank Zielinskis to have another year in the weight room. Same with Kareem Harden, his second year. This is his second year out of JUCO. So I think you're going to see an improved line even next year. And you imagine that you can bring in some guys as well from the transfer portal that can compete day one for some of these positions as well. So that's always really nice. But I think we've taken a nice step this year. We still need to continue to see that development. But I think Phil Oldholt's doing a great job right now. Betty Stevenson, if they don't run the ball, they will lose again. Yes, it is. It's just about having some balance. And, Lenny saying the same thing. I wish I could give a proper grade of CU, but you just can't do it with such an unbalanced offense. Yeah. Yeah. And again, even if we can get to those 20 designed runs for running backs, I feel like that's kind of like a magic number for us right now this year. That's just enough to give the balance that this offense needs. You just don't see us destroyed on, passing the ball every single down. Bishop, hope you're doing well. Big salute to everybody. That's too much common sense. Running the ball, yeah. Or that's all we got to do. Some of this stuff can be simple, but Brian saying Colton Hood is better than Preston Hodge. I think Colton Hood's better suited to play the boundary more so than Preston Hodge. And again, like I kind of feel a little indifferent about the coverages called at the end of the game. You just got to give Avery Johnson credit with making 2 incredible throws there in crunch time. And but I think I've seen enough from Colton Hood this year to have much greater confidence in him on the boundary than Preston Hodge right now. I think Preston Hodge does a good job in the slot, but you've been able to see sometimes he gets burned. I think this might have been the second or third touchdown you've seen him burned on long, playing somebody on the boundary. Yeah, Lamar saying, please don't blame the line. Shedeur had a horrible game. I'm trying to activate Braden mode. Let's be honest about it. Yeah, this was one of his, statistically, it was still a great game, but we've seen better games from Shedeur, and I hold him to a very high standard because he is that great. We didn't get his best performance especially in terms of his pocket presence and awareness. I was glad to see. Again, take everything that PFF does with a grain of salt because it is just one or two people's, opinions on the game. But it was nice to see that also reflected on the line. I think the line is easy to be scapegoated, but a lot of the times when pressure ended up getting to us, it was Shedeur still holding the ball, looking for a play down the field, and he's just done better against pressure in other games, just decision making. I think that he fell into some of his bad habits that we've seen from time to time. And again, that's a lot easier said than done. It's much easier to talk about it here sitting in my chair here on YouTube than to go out and actually do it when you've taken the hits that he's taken. But and you had the line that you had last year. But it sometimes it's frustrating to see still the memes about this offensive line on Twitter and whatever, when they weren't the reason we lost to KSU. They weren't. Yeah. Carter played a little bit, but just not a lot. He had 4 snaps in coverage. Let me see his total snaps here. Yeah, he had 4 snaps in coverage, 5 total. So we need to see him out there more as Shiloh's working his way back. Yeah, let's see. Going through a few more comments here, then I got to go. Hey, thanks so much, Rakeem. I appreciate the kind words. Again, guys, if you want to do the channel, just a quick favor. Let me refresh now. Let's see where we're at. I'm at 95 followers, guys. So it really does mean a lot to have the support from you guys. If you guys can just go in the description, hit that link to my Facebook profile. Once I reach 100 followers, you'll never hear from me again. And I can just start live streaming on there. That's really what I want to start doing. So, really close. Thank you to everybody who's taken the time to do that. It really does mean a lot. Yeah. Shedeur's backward running was crazy. And not to go too deep, but I think that that's definitely going to be the biggest thing and toughest thing in terms of his adjustment to the NFL is that that's going to be something that he's going to have to kind of round out a little bit, be a little bit more disciplined, drifting out of the pocket, spinning into pressure. It wasn't his best game from a pocket presence perspective. Dave, this is funny. This is totally true. Dave, you know how this goes. CU give you Carter and Hood and they get beat. The fans will come for them too. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely ruthless. Again, people love to just crap on Carter Stoutmire all off season long. And now everybody is clamoring for him. And it's funny because I'm a big fan of Carter. He'll be a starting safety for us next year. I still believe that Shiloh on this team is really helps out this team, but he just had a bad game. Like he just had a bad game. We've seen much better games from him in the past, and I have no doubt that he will bounce back. But in the meantime, we have somebody that should be playing more when he's not doing his job to keep everybody accountable, right? And I think again, kind of looking at him getting juked out of his socks a few times, really taking some bad angles, running into his own dudes, similar to the running back situation. There were a handful of times I felt during that first half where Dallin Hayden missed the hole. He missed the hole. And you got to keep guys accountable so that they understand and they become better from that accountability, right? I don't think from a personnel perspective we were as good at keeping guys accountable, and I think again it did come back to bite us. But I think that again, we got the players to win every single game that we have moving forward, no doubt about it. Everything that is getting in the way of us winning these games is completely in our control. We got enough talent on the offensive and defensive lines. We got talent at linebacker, at the skill positions, no doubt about it. It's up to us. It's up to us, and that's the really encouraging thing. So, yeah, I think we'll see a bounce back performance. But again, I think the biggest takeaway, guys, in my opinion, is that we've seen, and not that I'm saying this is a perfect performance, but I think we've seen 4 straight good games from the offensive line, with Baylor kind of being the lowest ranked one in all those games. But I think we've seen it. I think we've seen it, especially in terms of pass pro. So let's continue to build on that this week against Arizona. Pray to God every single day. We need Reverend, we need Bishop, we need all the Coach Prime pastors praying for Travis Hunter to be healthy this week. And I sure hope he can play. But if not, Colton Hood, it's your time, baby. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to be back tomorrow for some other videos. Thank you guys so much. And as always, Sco Buffs.